In this lesson, we're going to be talking about making a bar graph. Every bar graph, every graph really starts with a question. What we want to do is we want to show how the answers to the question, in this case, our favorite color in room 122, how those numbers compare to each other, what they look like, how much bigger is one number than another. And that's what a graph will give you. In this case, we're going to be making a bar graph. Now you can see the first thing you want to start with is a title for your graph. So the title of our graph is the favorite colors of room 122. And then we have some choices. We only have 3 choices on this particular survey that we're going to graph. One of the choices is red, another blue, and another one green. And since we already took the survey, what we're going to do is we're going to show the results. And the results of the survey were that 5 students chose red as their favorite, 7 students chose blue as their favorite, and 3 students chose green as their favorite. And we're going to add up all these choices. It's not necessary for this particular graph, but we're going to use that number when we graph another, um, when we make a circle graph later on. So 7 plus 5 plus 3, 5, 7, and 3 equals 15 students. And if you're watching this outside of our school district, no, I do. Yes, I do have more than 15 students. I'm just making a simple example in this case. So we've got the title of our graph, the question of the favorite colors in room 122, and this gives us people looking at the graph an idea what these numbers stand for, what do these bars stand for. And in this case, we have a grid, and these are 1 centimeter grids, and the grids you'll notice come in different sizes. Sometimes the grids are smaller, sometimes they're larger. And what you want to do is you want to look at what you have to choose from. And you want to organize your information in the grid. And it's nice to have a little space on top so that your bars don't go all the way to the top, because then people start to wonder, is it a little even more than that? Or maybe they ran out of room on their graph. And then to organize and balance your information. So on the bottom, this is called the x-axis of a grid. You don't have to know that right now, but we do refer to it sometimes, and this is the y-axis of the grid, the x and y axis. And on the x-axis, we're going to put the 3 different choices. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different columns in this grid, and we have 1, 2, 3 different choices. So if I had every bar stand for 3, I'd only be using this much of the grid. So I'm going to spread it out a little bit. I'm going to have a space in between, and I've done that already. And I've just kind of balanced it. There's the red bar and the blue bar, and then finally the green bar. So what we're going to be end up doing is using 2 bars to represent red, 2 bars to represent blue, and 2 bars to represent green. There's no rule that says you have to have them be 1 bar. You can have 2 bars be that, but they all have to be the same. They have to be balanced. I've got an extra bar here. I've got a bar in between each one. That's how I've balanced this out. And then this is the real important one. We know that we have 15 total, but we don't necessarily need our bar to go all the way up to 15. The reason we don't need it to go up to 15 is our highest number is 7. So we need to have enough where we can get to 7. Now in this case, we can just skip count by 1. Every row in our bar graph could equal 1. But a lot of times what you notice is every row you may need to skip count. Maybe skip count by 2s or 5s or 3s or 7s. It doesn't matter as long as they're all the same and people can see the pattern that you've got here. So in this case, we'll just skip count by 1, but I don't need to write it on each one. And it helps to keep the graph a little bit neater. 6, 7, and then there that would be 8. And you can see our highest number is 7, and we've got enough room for our highest result, plus a little space on the top. The other important thing when you organize your graph is to have something on the y-axis. What are these numbers? What do they represent? And in this case, those numbers represent students. Okay, so we have a title, we have what the y-axis, what those numbers represent, and then we have the 3 different choices. Now it's just a matter of taking these numbers, 5, 7, and 3, and creating the bars that match that. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. There it is there, and I'm going to see that red is the result was 5. So I'm going to make my bar go up to 5. Oops. Oh, shoot. make my bar go up to 5. And ordinarily, I would take a little more time to make this just the way I want. And we might as well fill that in with the color red. Neatness does make a difference when you're creating a bar graph or any graph. My next one was blue, and that went up to 7. So let's make another bar. Have that go all the way up to 7. And fill that in with blue. Fill that in with blue, I said. And then finally, our last graph was to graph the green. And our result for green was 3. So the green was 3. So now as you can see, get rid of him, I have a bar graph that shows the results of our different choices. In our next lesson, we're going to take this information and we're going to turn this bar graph into a circle graph.